All right, thank you, Shepard, very much. I am Neil Good. This is Your World, and we are looking at three concurrent developments. Obviously, the big debate tonight at the Reagan Library in California, and a big surge in the Dow on the day we're looking at the Federal Reserve. We are going to connect all of these for you because they are joined at both the political and financial hip in the most surprising of ways. Why? What's going on with this Federal Reserve and the fact that it could be poised to increase interest rates for the first time in a decade, not only could pop up as a subject of tonight's debate, but could be very worrisome news for someone who is not at that debate stage tonight. Hillary Clinton. More on that in a second. First, to Fox Business Network's Charlie Gasparino on the political implications of all of this and what it means right now. Charlie.
Yeah, I'd say what it means right now is that the Fed is in a very precarious position. It's signaled to the world that it has to increase rates, even though there's a good chance next year that the economy could slow. And I would say this, the one person that stands to lose the most out of this thing tomorrow, who's probably the most worried about it, it's not Donald Trump, it's not the Republicans in Congress, it's Hillary Clinton, because this is where you start getting into uncharted territory. Okay, the Fed says we have to raise rates. The markets believe they're going to raise rates. If the Fed doesn't raise rates, you got to ask, when will they? When will they? And and if they don't, is it going to keep going? Is it going to promote a stock market bubble or other bubbles in the market, which the Fed worries about?
And that is something we're going to get into. The one thing you touched on earlier on Fox Business was this notion that donors are kind of frozen in place. We're going to talk to a couple of them.
Oh, that's true.
But this notion that with all the attention on Donald Trump, he isn't only just sucking the oxygen out of the room, but the available money. Explain.
Well, there's two big stories on Wall Street, whether the Fed will raise rates and what's going on with Donald Trump. You know, I've reported this on your show many, many times. They are in a panic over Donald Trump sucking so much wind out of all their favorite candidates, namely Jeb Bush, namely Scott Walker, namely Marco Rubio. And here's where the rubber is now meeting the road. If you talk to the big donors on Wall Street, particularly those who are trying to raise money for Walker and Rubio, because Jeb has raised so much money already, they say their guys are frozen. They have a very, very difficult time raising money for Rubio and Walker. And so that's why this debate's going to be very interesting. Watch for Rubio and Walker to differentiate themselves. They know that they're it's on the line for them right now as to whether they'll be president. Jeb's in a little better position, not because he's such a good campaigner, because as we've seen, he's as in the words of Donald Trump, he's very low energy, but because he has already raised about over $100 million.
Something happened, right? And we were discussing on Fox Business that this notion that he used to seem, that is Donald Trump, unelectable, but now, in separate polls among Republicans, they do see him as electable. In fact, their best shot at winning the White House. That is a sea change in sentiment.
Now. Well, right now. And we're early.
That is 30 points different than it was just a few weeks ago.
And without raising any money. I don't think he's raised any significant, he hasn't spent any significant money. Here's how you know the other guys are all doing private polls where they get sort of, voter responses to at a very, very granular level. I don't think Donald has done one. There's some evidence he might be doing one in New Hampshire, but we can't confirm it. So this is a guy that spent almost nothing on the traditional mechanisms of campaigning, yet he is up. He's got 30% of the vote already. We should point out that the negative ads on Donald haven't started yet, and I don't care what anybody says, they have an impact. And you could just imagine what's going to be in those negative ads, given his comments about about Carly Fiorina and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
You'll hear the beginning of them tonight, and
probably
they will be playing out. All right, thank you very much, buddy. Charlie Gasparino, by the way, he will be with me. Special coverage tomorrow on FBN on this Fed announcement. More on that in a second. First now to some big backers and the folks they're backing, and I guess worrying about a tad, including my buddy Anthony Scaramucci, who's backing Scott Walker. Nick Mounsbacher, of course, backing Ted Cruz. They're both at the Simi Valley Presidential Library that memorializes one Ronald Reagan. And I guess, guys, Ronald Reagan's name is going to come up quite a bit. But the argument that Scott Walker has had, first to you, Anthony, is that Donald Trump is no Ronald Reagan, and I don't know whether it will be your candidate, Mick. I don't know whether it will be your candidate, but I will imagine some others will happily point that out. How important will that be tonight for your guys to do just that, Anthony?
Well, I'll start out by saying that I think that the focus is going to be on him because he's the front runner But if you can get that orange meringue haze off the stage for a moment and look at people that really have a track record in governing and in reform, well, you've got a leading executive, a political executive by the name of Scott Walker. And so I hope that's the message that Governor Walker gives out tonight, that cutting through all the haze and cutting through all the cult of personality, he's a guy that believes in growth and reform and can help make the country safe in what looks like a much more dangerous world, Neil, than it was even 4 short years ago.
All right, Amigo, I look at the debate stage tonight and I see a guy, your late great husband, Bob Mosbacher, had believed in, that is anyone with the last name of Bush. And I see that the world I heard that Jeb Bush is in, it might have played into your thinking maybe not to back Jeb Bush early then, but I get a feeling that almost anyone but Trump and Carson are going to be desperate. And is your candidate going to be desperate? Should your candidate be desperate? Should your candidate be throwing daggers?
Not at all. When I think of the Cruz campaign, I think of Aesop's fairy tale of the tortoise and the hare. There are some hares hopping ahead, but Cruz, like the tortoise, is making slow, steady progress.
But he's joined so much at the hip he's joined so much at the hip with Donald Trump, and obviously they're very close, very tight. They've obviously it almost seems like they made a deal, a pact, not to rip each other. Is that true?
No, they're very good friends. I have a lot of respect for Donald Trump, so I don't want him to think I'm calling him a hare. I was talking about his hairstyle. But anyway, I'd love to see a Cruz-Trump ticket. They're both brash, they're both outspoken, and what you see is what you get.
What about a Trump-Cruz ticket?
You're saying that Donald Trump's going to be the vice president on that?
I'd love to see it. That's my dream team. Hey, I can dream big.
All right, now, Anthony, people who don't know, you're very influential in Republican circles. You were a big money raiser, big backer, very influential within the Romney camp. And now, you hooked up with Scott Walker, who, it's still early, as you reminded me on Fox Business, and I think that's a great reminder to everyone. But what happened? What is going on? I mean, it's one thing to drop, but this is like a roadrunner freefall here.
Well, but if you look at other campaigns, other presidential cycles, John McCain had this situation. And so you get these ups and downs. You get a dating system that goes on in the summer. Now we're getting, I think the Danny Zuko, Sandra Dee dating is going to be over now as we go into the fall. And again, I think Governor Walker is going to be a guy staying there. You guys are reporting this, but I'll just mention it. In Iowa, he has super high favorability ratings. Granted that he's not polling super well right now, but people think very highly of the neighboring governor, Scott Walker, and what he's done in Wisconsin and what he could possibly do for the country.
Have you seen the same polls I have now? I don't. You're right. They're snapshots, Anthony, but whatever favorability ratings are there, I understand. But he's dropped precipitously. Does he have to do something tonight to turn that around?
He does. There's no question about that. He knows that. Our team knows that. And so I'm not here saying things that aren't true. I'm just saying that this is a make or break situation for a lot of these candidates. As we get into October and November, my prediction is that the candidates are going to dwindle down. There'll be 5 or 6 left. If Governor Walker is one of the 5 or 6 people left on the stage, and I predict he will be, Neil, he's going to be our nominee. And so that's our goal right now. Let's get him into that last category so people can really see his record relative to other people.
All right, Nick, real quickly, I mean, there is another separate way we gauge interest in candidates, the passion perspective. In other words, who gets you jazzed, who gets crowds jazzed when they get in there. Your guy Ted Cruz does that. Obviously, Donald Trump does that. But yet again, so does Chris Christie when he has his town hall meeting. So does that necessarily mean anything at the end of the day? What do you think?
Playing consistent messages to your base means the most. And you were talking about money being frozen. Well, it's not frozen in the state of Texas. Since Governor Perry dropped out, our record fundraising will be a miracle this quarter.
Are you saying that he has been getting more money since Perry dropped out? A lot more money?
Yes.
Have you given him more money?
A lot more
money. Have you written
money.
Additional checks?
Yes, I've given him more money, and we are seeing that people who've been sitting on the sidelines are now able to be free to make a commitment toward Cruz. They're not as torn between candidates.
That might have cleared up some Texas dough. All right, we'll watch very closely. Guys, thank you very, very much. I understand there's a debate tonight behind you, so we'll look at that.